All right, guys, how you doing? Hope everybody's hanging in there and doing well tonight. In today's video, I'm going to be checking out the Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun, is that how you say his name? Yeah, probably Braun, controversy. I know a little bit about this, and I want to dive a little bit deeper in this video. So this one was shared with me in the same document that I did the Reputation album reaction with. There's a couple of extra videos on there that I just didn't get to check out on the day that I did that stream, and I want to check it out right now. I just finished actually watching the Netflix Reputation tour. Dude, that was insane. I'd love to be able to share it with you guys here on YouTube. I'd love to post my whole reaction over here, but I'm fairly certain Netflix will absolutely murder me and probably delete my channel if I even attempt to upload this thing to YouTube. But if you want to check it out, it's available on Patreon. If not, totally cool. But we're gonna check out this whole controversy with Scooter Braun. My understanding is that she's re-recording a lot of her own music. She's somehow bought it back, and that's pretty much all I know. I know a little bit about the industry and why you might want to go and do something like that. If you guys don't know, I've been involved in the music industry for close to 25 years now. Everything from production to touring to all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah, so I'll talk about that, and we'll check this video out, shall we? Let's kill the audio, and yeah, let's see what this video is all about.
The amount of technical difficulties it took to start filming this video, that's Scooter Braun's karma. He is unleashing that shit on me right now. I get it. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new, then welcome. Thank you for clicking on today's video. So I'm sure, as a lot of you guys know, Taylor Swift is currently in the process of re-recording all of her albums, and since Fearless, Taylor's version, recently came out and everyone's speculating about which one she's re-recording next, a lot of people have been requesting for me to make a video explaining why she has to re-record all of her albums.
Okay, so some of the albums have already been re-recorded. You know what my hope is, and you guys might not agree with me on this one. I've never heard the Fearless album. I've only heard Reputation, but I kind of hope that she re-records them as close to the original recording as she possibly can. It's going to be difficult for an artist to go back through their catalog and re-record songs from earlier in their career and not add some kind of a change or something, some kind of shift in some kind of way. But I hope she keeps it as close to the original as possible.
And kind of go over everything that happened over time and what caused all this, and kind of discuss the people who were involved. So I knew this was one of the videos that I wanted to do as soon as I started doing music commentary, so I'm really excited that it's finally here. I hope you guys are strapped in and ready for the ride. But yeah,
strapped in and ready.
Music commentary, we're gonna be talking all about Taylor Swift's masters, Scooter Braun, Scott Borchetta, Big Machine Records, all of those things, so that hopefully you guys can kind of better understand what has been going on. Before we get started with the video, I do just want to introduce myself like I always do. I'm Jasmine. I make pop culture, music commentary,
hi Jasmine, I'm Jim.
Lifestyle videos all rolled into one channel. I study music business, so I love talking about the industry and celebrities and stuff like that. So if that interests you, don't leave me without subscribing first. Check out the description for my social medias to keep up with what I'm doing.
Here we go.
But yeah, now that all that promo is out of the way, we can just go ahead and get started with this video all about Taylor Swift and Big Machine Records. So we're gonna kick this all off with a section that I like to call In the Beginning. How did all of this start? How did Taylor even get her start with Big Machine? What is Big Machine? Where did it come from? So Taylor actually met this man named Scott Borchetta in 2004, but she didn't start working with him until the following year in 2005, when he discovered her at an industry showcase in Nashville, Tennessee. Scott Borchetta, who is this man that you're talking about that Taylor met? Where did
she looks so young there. Hey, for those of you that might not know what a showcase is, it is something you do. You basically do 2 to 5 songs in front of a bunch of label reps. It's very awkward. The ones that I've been a part of, they've been involved at like hotel, like lobbies, not lobbies, but like, you know, banquet rooms and stuff, like Holiday Inns and shit, at least the ones that I did. And it's the strangest thing in the world. You essentially set up, play a couple songs, like you're playing for a sold out stadium or something in front of like 3 to like 12 people that are just sitting down with laptops and clipboards. It's a very strange thing. But that's essentially what a showcase is. Sometimes showcases, they can call them, you know, a showcase and they'll just come to a show or something, but oftentimes you get brought in, or a collective group of musicians get brought in to kind of show what they got to, you know, the top label execs.
Did he come from? Just another CEO white man. Ha 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 ha. I talk about those a lot, don't I? Anyway, Scott Borchetta is a record executive, and he's also the CEO and founder of Big Machine Records, who we will be talking about today. Scott was born in California in July of 1962, which means he's currently 58. Scott actually got into the music business in the 80s because his father worked for big record labels like RCA and Capitol, which this seems to be a trend in the videos that we've been doing, talking about these big CEOs. They always do it after their fathers. But
no, they don't. They pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They get out there, they work hard, and then pull the ladder up after themselves.
yeah, Scott Borchetta was actually originally in a rock band. He performed with this rock band for a while and then decided to leave the band and stop doing it because they weren't seeing enough success for his liking. So instead of being in the band, he decided to do the behind the scenes stuff and ended up getting into artist development with Universal Music. A little bit later, he was actually—
A lot of musicians end up doing stuff like that. Even I do consulting.
Fired from Universal Music and then went on to start working for DreamWorks Nashville, which is another music company. He worked for DreamWorks in Nashville until 2005 when he abruptly decided that he wanted to open his own independent record label, which would go on to be called Big Machine Records, of course. But Scott just said that he didn't like the way that major labels operated, and he really felt that him and his business partner and colleague at the time could do a way better job if they just opened up their own independent label. Which takes us back to that industry showcase in Nashville, Tennessee, where he discovered Taylor. When he met Taylor at this industry showcase, it was literally right at the very beginning of the whole Big Machine idea. This company, this label was not in full swing at all. This company was still in the womb. She wasn't even birthed yet. So Taylor caught his attention while they were in this industry showcase, and her and her parents decided to agree to working with him. Taylor's dad, who's also named Scott Swift, he actually ended up buying a really small portion of Big Machine. We learned later down the road that her dad owned 3% of the company and was a shareholder. So Taylor was the very first person who got on board with the whole new label thing, and essentially she made him. And Taylor ended up signing a 13-year deal with Big Machine.
Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about 13-year contracts for just a second? And that is absolutely asinine and bullshit. First off, I want to know where Big Machine Records got their funding from. Now, we know Taylor Swift's dad, bought into the company for 3%. I don't know what amount of money, but to sign somebody to a 13-year contract usually takes a good amount of change or some sort of upfront signing bonus. Obviously, it varies for artist and whatever. But I'm wondering where the funding is coming from this label. But 13 years is absolutely asinine. It is ridiculous. I feel like a fair contract is anywhere from 3 to 5 years, especially for a brand new artist that does not have an entire catalog underneath them. And I'm seeing it more and more in genres and in labels all across the world, but these crazy massive sign-ons and these contracts. Back in my day, that was kind of the standard. It was like 5 years. Hey, we'll come out, we'll give you this bonus. You go out, you do your thing. We're gonna pay for your recording, pay for your promotion, do your tour, and you're gonna make it back, and you pay us back for that amount, and whatever is extra, whatever after a certain percentage, then that goes back to the band. And it's within 5 years. If the first album flops, everything goes to hell. Fuck it, you're done. You owe us a bunch of money, and wash, rinse, repeat. And that's just kind of how it was done, at least for indie artists. But 13 years is ridiculous, and I'm seeing this more and more. I had no idea that she was under that kind of time frame.
That would contractually tie her to the company until 2018. This was 2005. She signed a deal that would keep her tied to them until 2018. In this deal that Taylor signed with Big Machine, the 13-year deal, she would get a cash advance from them, which is basically just an upfront payment, as long as they owned the rights to her first 6 albums.
Okay, cash advance or a signing bonus, it's probably very similar to the same thing. I'm wondering what that advance was. It had to have been substantial, which makes me wonder where the funding for this label was even coming from.
So Big Machine basically said, here's this 13-year contract. If you sign it, we'll give you a fuck ton of money right now.
But what's a fuck ton of money? I want to know. And where's this funding coming from? I mean, did they just go to a bank and get a massive loan? It doesn't sound like this guy was all that successful. Wait, did his dad give him a bunch of money to set this label up too? I wonder if that happened.
As long as we can own the rights to all of the albums that you make while you're signed to us. Now,
for 13 years.
Deals are very different for different labels and different artists and companies that sign them. They come in all kinds of different formats with all kinds of things in them, but it is really normal, common, and traditional for big record labels or major labels to own their artists' music. That's very common. The reason why these record labels want to own artists' music is because they want to earn the money money back that they invest in these artists. Right. So if you sign to a major label, they're typically referred to as the majors, big record label. They spend a lot of money to shape an artist's career. They'll pay for the album making process, they'll pay for the photo shoots, they'll pay for big fancy marketing campaigns, they'll pay for you to get radio promo and to go be on different interview shows. They give you all that money to help.
Hold on a second. They don't give you all that money. Jasmine, they don't give you all that money. That money is basically a loan for 99% of artists. I've seen this firsthand. Luckily, I never got too involved and in debt with any of this shit. But I know people that are in debt for the rest of their lives by basically having themselves, their ego inflated in basically in label rep or an R&R representative or something, basically convince them to sign a contract. Nothing as ridiculous as 13 years, offer them a sign-on bonus, and then basically give them that and then say, okay, well, we got to record this record or re-record the record you already had, because chances are you already have a record that they just want to reproduce. Put you on tour, do all this promotion, do all this marketing and everything, and then through touring and then through your next album, that should pay for the first initial investment. But this money is not gifted to you. It's not saying, okay, we own the rights to your music and we're going to give you all this money and that's all it takes is to own the rights to this music. No, 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 no. It is far from that. They are requiring people to actually pay this money back, which I understand. You know, it's a company. They got to make money too. They got to do their thing. But it's a common misconception that you have this sign-on bonus, you have all this money, and you think you don't have to pay that back? You think that money is free because now this company owns your music? Hey man, your music might flop, you know? You might have 1,000 fans and you might sell, 75 records, and that's the end of it. That is not how it goes. These labels have to be paid back, and it's oftentimes paid back with ridiculous interest, and it's oftentimes impossible with the loopholes that are put in place with these contracts. You need a team of lawyers to go over this shit.
Your album do well. So they want to own your music so that they can have that money back. And plus more money. They make the money that they spent back and then some.
It is a business.
The reason why it was so common for them to own their artist music is because once the music is out there and it's being used, then that's a lot of money that these record labels are going to rake back in after they just spent so much trying to shape this artist's career. When I say owning the artist's music, I mean owning their masters. That's a word that's going to come up a lot in this video because the whole thing that we're talking about is Taylor Swift owning her masters. So a master is basically just the very first audio recording that ever exists when it comes to any audio recording, but in this case, music. So the artist will go into the studio, make a recording, and then once that recording is finished, it's called the master. The very first recording that was ever used. Once that first recording, the master, is done, that goes on to be used for everything.
Okay, so it's not the actual first recording, it's basically the mastered version of their final product. It's not like the demo version or anything. And oftentimes that track will also need to have something done to it, which is called mastering that track, which is a completely different process than just sitting there and mixing something. It's where you take the entire audio fidelity of that track and you put it through a more, how should I put it? Like an actual, like less digital and more of like an analog, like tape reel type set. They usually do that for bigger artists or really anybody that's mastering their stuff professionally. And you listen to the sonic fidelity of the entire track as a whole and not as individual instruments, but more as the frequency of where the track is going. And then you finally have this final polished version of your track. It's not like the demo version of the first recordings or anything like that. It's the recording that actually really matters. It's also stuff they can tie together through copyrights and stuff before YouTube got so good at just instantly copywriting stuff or figuring out, where that music came from. Back in the day, there had to be like built-in implications into the actual mastering to make sure it couldn't be used too many times or it couldn't be used in the wrong way. Oftentimes they'd send, records or tapes to radio stations and whatnot, and it can only be played a certain amount of time before it kind of wore out or scratched out or the fidelity got fucked up in some kind of way. I don't think it's still done that way nowadays, but that's kind of how it used to run. But the masters that she's talking about is the end final, truly mixed and actually mastered version of that track that will be used for radio airplay and singles.
Copied to be distributed onto digital platforms like Spotify, Apple Music.
Yeah, it's all different with the streaming stuff.
And then that first recording, the master, also goes on to be copied
the final
onto
recording,
albums and vinyls and stuff like that. So whoever owns that first recording, whoever owns that master, owns all these copies, and you have to get permission from them when you want to license the recording. So whoever owns your masters is a really powerful person. They get to decide everything that it's used for.
that's where it starts to get scary. That's where you really have to start trusting the label or whoever owns your shit, because you don't know what sort of political affiliations they have. You don't know what they're going to do with your music. You don't know if your music is all of a sudden going to show up for a commercial for some bullshit product that you want no part of. That's where things get sketchy, and that's why you need a team of lawyers to see what is going to be done with your music. Because let's just say you cannot own your music outright, okay? That's totally fine. I get it. It's shitty. I don't believe in it. I think they should have time limits. But you can also stipulate in your contract things your music can abso-fucking-lutely not be used for, all right? And a lot of it is commercial-based music, and that's a very common one. But you can say specific products or specific political parties you don't want your music attached to as well. Again, it's all negotiation between you and the lawyers and the label, but you can 100% mix those things in there. And just going in blindly saying, okay, you can do whatever you want with my music is a bad idea, dude.
Without your permission, you don't own it. So if this person wants to use your song in some terrible campaign that goes against everything you stand for, you can't do anything about it. So that's what a master is, in case you didn't know. Just keep all of that in mind. This will come back up again over time, and I'll continue to explain for you. But just keep in mind that the person who owns your masters is very powerful. So just a tiny little recap. Scott Borchetta is working on this new independent record label called Big Machine. He discovers Taylor in Nashville. Taylor signs a 13-year deal with him that allows him to own all of her first 6 albums, and in return she will be paid a fat amount of money up front. So Taylor goes on to release 6 albums under Big Machine Records, the first of which was self-titled and released in October of 2006. Her debut album alone did really well, and it was very clear that Big Machine had a huge star on their hands already. This is actually really interesting because a lot of people that knew Scott and worked with him really disapproved of him signing Taylor in the first place. They all told him it was a terrible idea. She was really young. They didn't think it was gonna work, and they advised him not to sign her, but he did it anyway, and obviously it did work.
Well, if you're looking for a 13-year contract, you got to get him in young. God, I'm so curious where the funding for this label came from.
One of the reasons why it ended up working so well is because Taylor was doing something very unknown to music back then, which was marketing country music to teenage girls. Taylor's debut album peaked at number 5 on the US charts and stayed there for 157 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Kind of crazy. What did I say? Taylor made Big Machine. But this video isn't supposed to be strictly focused on Taylor's career, so I won't dwell on it, but just know, Ms. Girl was so successful that I can't find a word for it. But as we all know, Taylor did go on to have 5 more very carefully crafted eras with Fearless, Speak Now, Red, 1989, and Reputation. And like I said earlier, Big Machine Records own the masters of all of these albums. Interesting fact about this, Taylor Swift's music Taylor Swift, I don't need to specify. Taylor. Burton to his Taylor, every love known it. Okay, but yeah, interesting fact about this is Taylor's music catalog made up 80% of Big Machine's income.
Oh, 80%
of all the money that they were making to make this record label work was coming from Taylor's music alone. That means there was only 20% of other artists making their money for them. But then comes along Miss 2018, the year that Taylor's contract...
All right, hey, before we get into that, let's talk about that, because this is something that happens oftentimes with music, with labels in general. You'll have like 5 or... Well, I don't want to put out a number, but you'll have a handful of acts usually that kind of pay the bills, and it's really just paying for that initial investment for new signed acts. And that's why I'm so curious where Big Machine, where they got their initial funding from. She's saying that she got a fat check right off the bat, or signing bonus or something. They also had music videos and whatnot. All of this cost a lot of money. Where is this money coming from? That's what I'm really curious about. But it's a common thing. Yeah, it's commonly known in many labels. You have 1 or 2 acts that kind of pay the bills for everybody else, and in hopes you sign a bunch of different artists that will also break through and start paying the bills. But in most cases, they don't. Most cases, most of them just flop.
With Big Machine is up, and she can either re-sign with them or move on to something else. Spoiler, she moved on to something else. After her contract was up with Big Machine, Taylor went on to sign a new one with Republic Records, who are parented by Universal Music. When Taylor's contract with Big Machine expired in 2018, Scott Borchetta did try and get her to stay and re-sign. Obviously, if this woman is making up 80% of your income, you're gonna
keep
want
her around.
To stay. But Taylor had been telling Big Machine for years that she wanted to own her music. And so when the contract was up, she was ready to move on because she couldn't own her music. So in response to that, Scott supposedly told Taylor that she can earn her masters back by receiving the rights to them one by one for each new album that she put out. So basically they told her, you can re-sign with us, and then for each new album that you put out, you can have the rights back to an old one. So
oh, that is so bad. Oh my God. It would take her years. So she'll have to put out 6 new albums, and then she'll own those original ones, and then she'll have to put out 6 other albums to own those next. Oh, it's such a bad idea.
say she re-signs a new deal and puts out a brand new album, then she can earn the rights back to self-titled. She puts out another new album, then she could have the rights back to Fearless, like that, which would obviously take a lot of time and hard work. So Taylor said, fuck y'all, and signed with Republic Records instead. She probably didn't say that. That was great. Go Taylor. Until 2019 when Scooter Braun comes along. So 2019 rolls around and Scooter Braun, new character in the story, acquires Big Machine Records from Scott Borchetta for $300 million. Scooter Braun, another man. Who is that? Well, it's my job to tell you. Scooter Braun is a very successful record executive, investor, and artist manager from New York City who has basically built himself a multimedia empire. Scooter is currently 39 and manages really successful artists like Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, Demi Lovato, for example.
Oh, wow.
Weirdly, Scooter's real name is actually Scott. All 3 of the men that we've talked about in this video are named Scott. Scott Borchetta, Taylor's dad, Scott, and Scooter Braun is actually Scott Braun. I don't know why he calls himself Scooter, but anyway.
You don't like Scooter?
Successful businessman, artist manager, media giant, has all these successful clients. Scooter actually got his start in the music business by planning parties in college. He built a reputation for doing really good at party planning in this college world. So then he got to go and plan after parties for Eminem and Ludacris. Since his name was going around so much in the hip hop community and different celebrities and stuff, he got asked at only 19 years old to come and start a marketing position for a record label. So he worked in this marketing position for a label for a little bit and then decided
it's a common thing amongst promoters.
And he started his own venture for artist representation and marketing. So after Scooter started his own venture for artist representation and marketing and stuff like that, during that period of time, he discovered Justin Bieber. Justin was only 12. Scooter supposedly saw a video of him on YouTube and decided to pull some strings, make some connections, and basically rocket launched him into a career that we know Justin for today. But unsurprisingly, a lot of people don't like Scooter Braun. Ariana Grande stans especially seem to not like Scooter Braun. She's one of his clients and appeared to have an okay working relationship with him in the beginning, but then we found out that she fired him in early 2016 for a time. Apparently, she fired him as her manager over some personal relationships, and then Scooter went on to brag and brag and brag in the media about knowing all this super personal information about Ariana, which is just so weird to me.
And what I chose with Ariana is I could have said a lot of stuff. In fact, my team wanted me to, because they were pissed. And I said, we're not gonna say a word. And this is gonna come back around. Not
to mention, Scooter is not a good person in general. It's not just Ariana. He's had a reputation for screwing over a lot of people. Like I said, he taunted Ariana in the media a little bit. He released things that she did not approve of. He forced her to release a really, really personal song on her album, Thank You Next.
Yeah, Ghostin' sucked.
At first?
Ghostin' was something that I had started with Max and Savin and Ilya. We didn't finish it, and then a few weeks later, Victoria and I came back to it. It's a lot. It's like too much, actually. I was literally begging Scooter to take it off, and he was like, you're thinking too hard now. This is special, and you should share it with everybody.
When you're making that decision, you obviously talk to these guys. Are you pushing her to put that record on, even though she says or has pushed back?
No.
Or doesn't want to?
No, whatever she wants goes. Whatever she says. Yeah, Scooter was the one.
Yeah,
He's not here.
He also played.
Yeah, because here's the thing. These people don't actually care about artist development. They're not trying to nurture anybody. They're not trying to, like, you know, build anything. They're basically turning and burning. They're building something up and then they cash out. They sell. And then they move on to the next thing. It's like flipping houses, but with people. Yeah, Scoot sounds like a piece of work here, man. You know, they don't care if a song is, you know, in the artist's eyes not ready or something that they want to share with people or whatever. They see it as dollar signs. That's all they care about. I hate this term of like artist development or management. It's like you're not managing anything. You're trying to suck as much money out of these people as you possibly can and then turn and burn them. It's horrible, man.
Planned out this really huge and busy career for Madison Beer, where he promised her all of these perks and things that they were gonna do and plans that he had for her, and then dropped her out of nowhere.
I was signed to everything. I had Justin Bieber in my music video. I had like TV show being planned, movies being planned, this and that, and then out of nowhere it was all gone. No more Scooter, no more Justin, no more labels. Not even my lawyer was the same. Everyone left me. Everyone gave up.
There it is, turn and burn right there. I'm sorry, girl. What happened was the analytics came back and you probably just didn't test well in the right demographic that they were going from. And they're not willing to invest in you. They're willing to just basically keep cashing into the cash crops, you know, the Justin Biebers, the Taylor Swifts of the world. And it sucks. It sucks for girls like this because they're going to be promised the world, all right? And they're going to stop looking for other representation. And they're going to stop the trajectory of their career by, all right, before I write any new music, I have to start polishing up my old stuff so we can re-record it and release it under whatever label. And it fucking stifles everything. This sort of shit happens every single day, man.
Wow. Everyone.
He also kind of ruined the career of Carly Rae Jepsen. He spent a long time really milking Call Me Maybe because that song obviously is one of the most successful singles of all time.
I love Carly Rae Jepsen. I loved that song. There's something uniquely, I don't know, girl next door about her. The minute I heard that song, I just liked it. I liked her vibe, and I've always wondered what happened to her. This fucking Scoot guy, Scoot canceled Carly Rae? I liked Carly. She seemed cool. So
he was really enjoying the Call Me Maybe money, but then really couldn't figure out how to keep that success going.
No, this is what happens. They find, again, her analytics hit a certain demographic. Oh shit, it's trending in the right directions. Instead of like letting an artist breathe and actually develop them, what they're doing is they're just doubling down. No, let's keep promoting this. Let's keep pushing this because they don't give a fuck about the artists themselves. They just want to try and cash in as much money as they possibly can. And that probably hurt her. Because I'm sure Carly Rae wanted to do other stuff, do different albums, do music in a different direction, you know, really experiment with her craft. But no, this one song's catchy. It's got a hook to it. People like it. Let's keep cashing in. And eventually what happens is if they do that and they keep marketing that one thing that keeps making money, then the audience only sees you in that one light. They don't see the next single. They don't see whatever. And you become a one-hit wonder and it can destroy your career.
He didn't think her second album would do as well and literally just left her with nothing, just like Madison. He also managed the British-Irish boy band The Wanted, who were really popular back in their time. They had a reality show, so Scooter was always trying to get them portrayed as these rambunctious, insane party boys with terrible reputations. He just wanted them to behave insane for the media attention and didn't really care about the negative backlash that would come with that.
Yeah, see, now stuff like that is really damaging because if you go on a reality TV show and people start thinking a certain thing of you when you're presented in a certain way, you're never going to claw your way back from there. Oh my God. What a piece of work.
He also has a bad history of sabotaging radio play and chart success as a manipulation tool. So that's pretty much what you need to know about Scooter Braun. Moving back into the Taylor timeline, he's the one that acquired Big Machine Records from Scott Borchetta. This was announced on June 30th in 2019, and the public learned that Scooter would now have ownership over the masters of Taylor's first 6 albums. So on this day that the public found out about Scooter acquiring Big Machine, Taylor released a statement stating that she had no idea this was gonna happen and talking about how cheated she felt by the whole thing. I'm gonna read the statement. This is what Taylor had to say about Scooter acquiring Big Machine. For years I asked, pleaded for a chance to own my work. Instead, I was given an opportunity to sign back up to Big Machine Records and earn 1 album back at a time, 1 for every new one I turned in. I walked away because I knew once I signed that contract, Scott Borchetta would sell the label, thereby selling me and my future. I had to make the excruciating choice to leave behind my past. Music I wrote on my bedroom floor and videos I dreamed up and paid for from the money I earned playing in bars, then clubs, then arenas, then stadiums.
So Taylor Swift was paying for some of these videos. Music I wrote on my bedroom floor and the videos I dreamed up and paid for from the money I earned playing in bars, then clubs, then arenas. Interesting.
Some fun facts about today's news. I learned about Scooter Braun's purchase of my masters as it was announced to the world. All I could think about was the incessant manipulative bullying I've received at his hands for years. Like when Kim Kardashian orchestrated an illegally recorded snippet of a phone call to be leaked, and then Scooter got his 2 clients together to bully me online about it. Or when his client Kanye West organized a revenge porn music video which strips my body naked. Now Scooter has stripped me of my life's work that I wasn't given an opportunity to buy. Essentially, my musical legacy is about to lie in the hands of someone who tried to dismantle it.
Wow.
But basically, in summary of all that, Taylor already had a horrible history with Scooter Braun. So the fact that Scott would sell all of her music to him was awful. And if you don't know about Taylor's drama with Kanye, I will run it all down in a very shortened version.
Oh, I know.
Just so you can understand kind of what
I'll listen
happened
again.
and why she already had a little bit of bad blood with Scooter. We all know that Kanye and Taylor got off to a bad start in 2009 when he went up on the stage during her award speech to interrupt her, saying that he thought Beyonce deserved the award and literally humiliating her in front of the whole world. Obviously that destroyed Taylor a lot, but over the years after that they sort of patched things up. She presented him with an award eventually that he asked her to present to him, so things were like kind of okay in the years following that. But then in 2016, Kanye released a song called Famous that featured a lyric about Taylor, and the lyric said, "I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. Why? I made that bitch famous." Obviously, Taylor was really hurt by these lyrics and grossed out by these lyrics because he literally said, "I made that bitch famous." She thought it was very derogatory and was really hurt by it. But then both Kanye and his then wife at the time, Kim Kardashian, said that she knew about the lyrics and even approved for them to be in the song over a phone call. Taylor came back and said that yes, they did have a phone call about the song, but he never mentioned the lyrics to her. She didn't know about them. He didn't play the song for her. He just called her to ask if she would promote the song on her Twitter account. Later in July, Kim Kardashian released a video of Kanye and Taylor on the phone having this conversation, but nowhere in the video did Kanye mention the lyrics that Taylor was hurt about. And he also didn't bother to mention the music video either, in which he portrays Taylor Swift naked head to toe. Even more footage of this phone call between Kanye and Taylor got leaked later in 2020 though, and it literally further proved that Kanye never mentioned this lyric to Taylor and just left it out of the conversation completely. So this whole time, Kim and Kanye were both painting Taylor as this huge liar and this person who keeps playing the victim and completely dragging her through the mud in the media, when that wasn't the case at all. She was telling the truth. And Scooter comes into all this because Kanye was one of Scooter's clients, and he was completely on Kanye's side in the matter. Justin Bieber literally posted a photo on Instagram of him on FaceTime with Scooter and Kanye, and in the caption he added Taylor Swift. If Justin would have posted that picture with no context, we maybe wouldn't have been able to draw it to Taylor, but the fact that he literally mentioned Taylor in the caption just goes to show that Scooter and Kanye and himself were all in on this and talking about it. So after all that, Taylor finds out that this man, Scooter, now owns all of her music. So after Taylor released her statement talking about Scott Borchetta and Big Machine, Scott immediately wrote a response and published it on Big Machine's blog.
Oh, here we go.
This post that he published is really long and wordy, so I'm just gonna summarize the main points of it so you can kind of understand what he was arguing. So in this blog post, Scott claims that this all started when he organized a shareholders meeting with all the people who own shares in Big Machine. So there was 5 other people, I believe, who owned a portion of Big Machine, and he had a meeting with all of them to talk about this purchase. But in this shareholders meeting, Scott Borchetta told all of the Big Machine shareholders about this deal that would be happening with Scooter, and they were all able to vote on whether or not they should go through with it. In this blog post, Scott went on to say that he texted Taylor about the deal that was going on himself, and he said he, quote, truly doubts she woke up to the news just like everyone else. Also in this blog post, Scott essentially says that Taylor was lying about having to earn back her albums, and he said that he did offer to transfer all of her assets back to her if she signed a 10-year deal with Big Machine rather than a 7-year deal. So in this blog post, he's just basically saying that Taylor is lying about every single thing that she said and that it went a completely different way. This feud blew up very, very quickly and became a huge deal in the media right away. There was even other celebrities who started publicly backing Taylor, people taking sides. Celebrities like Rihanna, Adele, Miley Cyrus, Camila Cabello publicly supported Taylor. And then Halsey also went as far as making a whole post about it. Halsey said, "Taylor Swift is a huge reason why I always insisted to write my own music. I believed if she did it in a way that made my teeth ache like cold water and my heart swell and my eyes leak, then I should too. Because that's how to make someone feel. To drag it from the pits of your heart. To offer it on
Halsey's
a platter
badass.
and say, take some, but take kindly. She deserves to own the painstaking labor of her heart. She has surpassed all expectations of what any artist is even capable of. She catapulted her stardom into the Milky Way. And it turns my guts that no matter how much power or success a woman has in this life, you are still susceptible to someone coming along and making you feel powerless out of spite. It speaks volumes to how far we have come in the music industry, the way writers are treated, How as an entertainer you were respected, but as a writer you're walked all over. Even when you are both in one single body, I am standing with her. Halsey really said it best. I really love the way that she said that, the way she worded it. She covered every base. But unfortunately there was another side. There was celebrities publicly backing Scooter instead of Taylor, most notably Justin Bieber, obviously. So Justin said, "Hey Taylor, first of all I would like to apologize for posting that hurtful Instagram post. At the time I thought it was funny, but looking back it was distasteful and insensitive.
Okay.
I have to be honest though, it was my caption and the post that I screenshotted of Scooter and Kanye that said, 'Taylor Swift, what up?' He didn't have anything to do with it, and it wasn't even a part of the conversation in all actuality. He was the person who told me not to joke like that. Scooter has had your back since the days you graciously let me open up for you. As the years have passed, we haven't crossed paths and gotten to communicate our differences, hurts or frustrations. So for you to take it to social media and then get people to hate on Scooter isn't fair. What were you trying to accomplish by posting that blog? Seems to me like it was to get sympathy. You also knew that in posting that your fans would go and bully Scooter. Anyway, one thing I know is both Scooter and I love you. I feel like the only way to resolve conflict is through communication. So banter back and forth online I don't believe solves anything. I'm sure Scooter and I would love to talk to you and resolve any conflict, pain, or any feelings that need to be addressed. Neither Scooter or I have anything negative to say about you. We truly want the best for you. I usually don't rebuttal things like this, but when you try and deface someone I love's character, that's crossing a line." Realistically, there are some things that I can see both sides of when it comes to this feud. But one thing that really confuses me is Justin insisting that they don't have a problem with Taylor and that posting things on social media isn't the answer, when he was the one who literally posted a FaceTime screenshot of all of them taunting Taylor and captioned it, "Taylor, what up?" Like, you clearly had a problem with Taylor and you brought it to social media just to turn around and be like, "Hey, we don't have a problem with you. Stop bringing things to social media."
Yep.
But anyways, both
That's what I got from it.
and Sia were also on Team Scooter. But anyways, this feud that's going on got ramped right back up again in November of 2019 when Taylor publicly accused Scooter and Scott of not letting her perform her old music at the American Music Awards. Taylor was set to be presented with the Artist of the Decade award during the show, and she wanted to perform a medley of all her old music. They also supposedly told her that she couldn't use her old music or performance clips in the documentary that she had coming on Netflix called Miss Americana. Scooter and Scott supposedly told Taylor that she had permission to perform the medley and use her music in the Netflix documentary as long as she agreed not to re-record her first 6 albums and agreed to stop talking about them in the media. Because in this time, Taylor had announced that she would be re-recording her first 6 albums so she could own the masters. She said, "It's something that I'm very excited about doing because my contract says that starting November 2020, next year, I can record albums 1 through 5 all over again. I'm very excited about it. I just think that artists deserve to own their own work. I just feel very passionately about it." So we all knew that Taylor had plans to start re-recording her albums so she could own the masters. And Scooter and Scott basically told her that if she agrees not to do that, then they would let her use her music in Miss Americana, the documentary, and she could perform the medley at an award show. So regarding
I'm gonna watch that documentary
subject,
too.
Taylor said, "I just want to be able to perform my own music. That's it. I tried to work this out privately through my team, but have not been able to resolve anything. Right now, my performance at the AMAs, the Netflix documentary, and any other recorded events I'm planning to play until November 2020 are a question mark." So the day after Taylor made these accusations saying that she was being blocked from performing her old stuff, Big Machine came out and claimed that it was all based on false information. They claimed that Taylor's narrative doesn't exist and once again painted her out to be a liar. Taylor's rep ended up releasing an email that Big Machine initially sent to them in this whole issue. This is from Big Machine. From Big Machine to Taylor and her rep. "Please be advised that Big Machine Label Group will not agree to issue licenses for existing recordings or waivers of its re-recording restrictions in connection with these 2 projects, the Netflix documentary and the Alibaba Double 11 event." During all of this, by the way, Big Machine was also really trying to deflect some of the conversation happening by randomly stating that Taylor owed them millions of dollars. It was literally so random, just in the middle of their statement. They were like, "Oh, by the way, Taylor owes Big Machine millions of dollars." But then Taylor's team hired a whole auditor and they determined that Big Machine actually owes Taylor $7.9 million. They owe her $7.9 million because of unpaid royalties. Why are you trying to deflect with information that's not even true? All of this that we've talked about so far is already so much. But then
That
we
is
move
hilarious.
into November 2020 when Scooter Braun decides to sell all of Taylor's music to an investment fund called Shamrock Holdings for $300 million. So
boy.
Scooter gained ownership over Taylor's masters and it was a huge problem. And then he decided to sell them again without telling her. And in the deal with this investment fund, it allowed Scooter to keep profiting off of Taylor's music for many, many more years. And even worse, when this happened, we found out that Taylor and her team behind the scenes had been trying to negotiate a deal with Scooter for an entire year. Her and her team were already trying to negotiate buying back her music, and instead he just decided to sell it off to someone else. But even worse than that, Scooter refused to give Taylor her masters back unless she signed a very, very tight non-disclosure agreement that would prevent her from ever saying a negative thing about him again. Which really just makes you wonder if all of Scooter's current clients are under some kind of NDA like that too.
100%
Why was he so
they are.
adamant on Taylor signing this really
100% they're under those kind of NDAs. 100%.
tight-knit, long, non-disclosure agreement that would make it impossible for her to talk negatively about him. And also, the company that acquired Taylor's masters from Scooter admitted that they tried to tell her and that they wanted to tell her that he was selling them again, but Scooter literally instructed them to say nothing to her and required them in the deal to make zero contact with Taylor. The company was interested in making a deal with Taylor and Scooter, but Taylor wanted no involvement if Scooter was there. So Taylor tweeted a long statement kind of explaining what happened with Scooter giving away her masters, declining the partnership between Scooter and Shamrock, and then also confirming that she had started the process of re-recording her first 5 albums. So Taylor is going to be re-releasing all of her old albums, and she will own all the masters to those albums, thankfully, which means she'll be in full control over her own music, what happens to it, what it's used for, which is amazing, but I also can't even imagine the amount of work that that's going to take. I really admire her dedication to wanting to redo all of her albums so she can own her masters. It really shows that she clearly cares about her music a lot.
Shows character.
This whole thing was a wild ride, start to finish. This woman has been through so much. It really is frustrating that the industry was set up for major labels to have so much control, leaving these artists at a great disadvantage over their own literal creation. In our current age of music industry, though, it is starting to slowly become more common for labels to have deals that are a little bit more fair for the artists, such as giving artists a larger cut in the royalties that come from the master rights. So like, for example, the major label will own the masters, the sound recordings, but then the artist will get a lot of money. Before, it was really common for artists to not own their music and then also get paid a very small cut of it. Because like I said in the beginning, these major labels want to make back as much money as they can. Or we're starting to see some labels strike a deal where the rights to the master recordings revert back to the artist after a certain period of time. And then there's other types of contracts that are now allowing for artists to have more say in what their work is used for. So that's another good deal to work out. Because while it is important to talk about artist rights, there's also gotta be some kind of balance with the label too. Admittedly, yes, I'm all for artist rights, but we kind of also have to accept that these record labels do put a lot of work into these artists' careers most of the time. So it is good to kind of find a balance where the label is making back their money and helping their client, but then also where the artist has control over their creative work and is being treated and compensated fairly. But if the majors don't start cooperating with these things, we're gonna see so many more artists become independent. Over the past chunk of years, it's been more and more popular for artists to be independent and not sign with the major. But I think it's really interesting to sit back and watch. I'm really interested in seeing how the industry is going to grow and change in this way. We actually talk about this a lot in my classes since I study music business, and this whole Taylor Swift situation is just such a prime example. It's always used in discussions. It just really goes to show how important it is that you understand your contracts, that you have someone on your team who can talk you through these things, not just for the present, but for the future too. When you're about to sit down and sign, you really have to think about what these things are gonna mean for you later down the road. Why did a famous TikToker just send me a video on Instagram? What's going on? But yeah, that's basically the entire Taylor Swift feud laid out. I hope this video helped you guys map everything that's going on. A lot of you guys wanted me to kind of go from the beginning and explain, so I tried my best. Hopefully you can understand what's going on a little bit better, but if you still have some lingering questions, you can leave them in a comment below. Shoot me a DM on Twitter, Instagram, and I will happily try and respond to your questions if you're still confused about something, or if you even just want my general opinion on something. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my description for...
All right, Jasmine put out a great video here, and for those of you guys that are curious about her channel, it's Jasmine Zaid, and yeah, I think overall she put together a very cohesive video of some of the things that happened in the music industry and essentially what happened with Scooter Braun here. Honestly, dude, the guy sounds like a scumbag. I've seen a million of these kind of guys working with people, and again, it's turn and burn. You know, they basically look at people as commodities. There's no artist development. There's no nurturing these artists. It's literally put them in front of as many people as you possibly can. If it doesn't hit the right analytics, then fucking toss them out and then move on to the next thing. But it's not as simple as just tossing them out and moving on to the next thing. By tossing these artists out, you know, you can have detrimental effects to their career and to their finances. Oftentimes they give you all this money up front, but like that money has to be paid back. It's not something like where if they give you a sign-on bonus, they give you a record and the record doesn't work out, it's like, oh, well, we're going to drop you. Unfortunately, you know, it's just not selling. No, dude, you're on the hook for whatever they say. You're on the hook for, you know, these studios, which they own, and they can charge whatever rates that they want. Yeah, get this. The studios themselves, the labels usually own the studios. Not all the time, but most times. And they send you in there, and the rate could be anything what they charge. They'll say like, okay, well, it's $1,000 an hour just to have the studio rented out. To have the producer working with you, that can be anything from $1,500 to $5,000 an hour, depending upon who you're working with. You know, and they can charge whatever these rates are, and they can just basically write it off for tax purposes. And then on top of that, they just make you pay it on top of it. And this could take years with crazy, crazy interest. And 9 times out of 10, unless you're a massive success, you're not going to be able to pay these people back. A lot of times people get blinded by that sign-on bonus. You know, they're like, oh shit, here's a check for this thing right now. And, you know, honestly, these sign-on bonuses, unless you're a major star, you already have a catalog behind you, aren't even that crazy. I mean, I'm going to sound like a rich asshole, and I'm not. I'm just an everyday guy. But 9 times out of 10 for a mid-range artist, you know, somebody that's selling out, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 seats every night, a sign-on bonus for that, do you know how much, what would you think that would be? Because usually it's around $50,000, $50,000 to $100,000 sign-on bonus, okay? And then on top of that, then you have to go and record things how they want to be recorded with the prices that they set in, and then make that money back off of your first record with these astronomical fees that they charge you to record and work with producers and whatnot that are very inflated, and then make you pay that back. 9 times out of 10, you can't, because the number is just too ridiculous, especially for these artists that are pulling in numbers like that are playing out places for 5 to 1,000 people a night. It's a bummer. It's an absolute bummer. So it ruins people's finances, and then it ruins people's trajectory, which is a fucking shame in itself. That poor girl that was promised the world, that basically said, okay, we're to come in, you're gonna do the album, we're gonna have, you know, do this track with Justin Bieber, everything's gonna work out, and then things just don't work out in the right way, or she doesn't hit a right analytic right away, and they just decide not to invest in her. Meanwhile, her stopping, her, you know, deviating her trajectory, you know, who knows what kind of damage that causes? Who knows what that, you know, proves to the industry or whatever. It's a slippery slope. I could say after watching this video, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I didn't know much about Scooter Braun himself, but I know these kind of guys. I know these kind of people, and it's shitty. You got to be kind of cutthroat to work in this industry, especially starting off as like a promoter. You know, promoters are everywhere, or they used to be. I don't know if they still are. But promoters were everywhere. They basically, if you're coming to town or whatever, they, you know, talk to different radio stations, they talk to colleges, they talk to whoever's in charge and try to build up some hype for you coming to town. And yeah, eventually they usually get a cut of like, you know, whatever the door sales are. And then you just kind of move your way up. But like I've worked with so many of these people, and 9 times out of 10, they're kind of just scummy people. And then I've worked with people that have done artist, you know, relations or management. And some of them are good, some of them truly believe in you, and some of them can really help you out. But 9 times out of 10, it's a turn and burn scenario, especially when you're getting to a level like this and you already have some major artists underneath your belt. You can use those major artists as, you know, some leeway. Hey, we got Justin Bieber over here. We got Ariana Grande. We're working with these kind of people. Don't you want to be in this kind of league? And they use those names to basically attract everybody else, and then they throw them under the bus and turn and burn them. Even Ariana Grande, she didn't want to release that song, but he still didn't give a fuck. They don't care about the artist. They really, really don't. But again, labels, like she said, they gotta get their nut too, man. They gotta make their money, and I understand it to a certain degree. But the way the music industry is moving right now, how things are progressing forward, we are needing labels less and less. If you think about the recording studio, like even what it took to record a 5-piece band, I don't know, even 15, 20 years ago, which might sound like forever for some people, but I remember recording in studios 5 or 10, 20 years ago, and what it took and the amount of money that it took and what kind of equipment you needed compared to what it is now. Nowadays, a decent laptop, you can get the job done. It's just ridiculous. You could just use a MIDI controller with a million different plugins, and you can have basically these studios that used to run $5 million back in the day. Hell, half the time I was just watching a documentary with Taylor Swift, and she was doing some vocals in for her album, and she was doing it on this mic. This is just a $400 or $500 mic. You know, the music industry and putting on quality recordings are getting to the everyday people, where people can just kind of go out there and do these sort of things. So you don't need these multi-million-dollar studios. Now, producers are still going to cost you an arm and a leg depending upon who you're working with. But for the most part, you can learn how to do things yourself and release it yourself that way. And people are seeing success with that. In fact, YouTube is even set up that way to basically give you ad revenue back that way, or have other sort of kickbacks with any sort of endorsement deals that you personally want to do without having somebody own your music. Look, I think a lot of underground artists and mid-range artists are starting to realize this, and they have been realizing this over the last 10 years, and I've been seeing more and more of it. And then basically they'll just hire a manager or an artist development agency that is not really affiliated with just one label, but multiple ones that can get them on various tours and whatnot. We're seeing this more and more. The days of the massive or the million labels everywhere, I think, are kind of shattering, and it's the way of the dinosaur. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of that moving forward. Yes, they'll still pop up here and there, but it's not going to be the major concerns. What's going to kind of suck about that is you're going to have, your majors. You're going to have your Universals, you're going to have your Sonys, and you're going to have, the big dogs, and then it's pretty much just going to be that or nothing. But every day, unless you've got a massive catalog underneath your belt, it is becoming less viable to work with these people. What are they doing for you? What sort of promotion are these people giving you that you can't just do yourself with Instagram or TikTok or YouTube? I think artists are starting to realize this. And like I said, I do consulting myself, and 9 times out of 10, I talk people out of signing fucking deals. I say, stick to your shit as long as you can. I know that sign-on bonus seems great right now, but in 5 years, when you owe X amount of dollars and the band owes $1 million, and it's ruined your finances for the rest of your life with crazy interest rates that you cannot control, you're fucked, dude. And some people have been able to talk out of it, and some people I have not. And unfortunately, it's not going well for them. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on this video. Again, I think Jasmine did a great job. Thank you so much for all the information. If you're watching later on, Jasmine, if you enjoyed hanging out and hearing my theory and my thoughts and my angle on things, please consider liking and subscribing. And I'll see you guys all later. Bye now.